Well, good morning. The title for today is Mercury Retrograde, October 4 to 26, and Solar Eclipse. I am not an astrologer, and I do not normally take these retrograde things too seriously. However, with some of the crazy communication I've been experiencing lately, I wonder if this retrograde is having an effect. And that's all of the blurb that I wrote. And I don't even know for sure where I'm going to go with this. But yes, the communication this month, as I reflected on it yesterday and again this morning, is all over the place. I mean, I've had some very positive communication and some very apparently negative communication that I've been involved in over the past month, which ends in a couple of days from now. What is it, Saturday that it ends? Let's see, October 26th is Sunday. Okay, so it ends on Sunday and goes back direct again. Now, traditionally, solar eclipses, or I should say it's not solar eclipses, but Mercury retrogrades, they tell you that you don't travel, don't sign contracts, don't marry, don't touch electronics, and all sorts of other advice. Well, considering that Mercury goes retrograde, what, 3 or 4 times or something each year, that's pretty hard to do. I mean, you're going to put your life on hold. I mean, I touch electronics every day, whether Mercury's retrograde or not. And I communicate with people all the time. And sometimes there are things that that you just have to do. And I mean, I just normally do not buy in to all of these warnings. I have friends. that send me emails that tell me when Mercury is retrograde and warn me to be careful. Make sure you back up your files on your computer and all sorts of things like that. And I know people that, I'm thinking of one friend in particular who places great significance on this Mercury retrograde thing and follows the advice, and she tries to get me to follow it as well. But I choose, generally speaking, not to live my life in such bondage. I'm not ruled by planets or suns or stuff like that, although I'm sure they have an influence. Now, I didn't know anything about astrology as I was growing up, and even into my young adult life. I don't know if I've told this story before, but my first introduction to astrology happened when I lived in the state of Delaware, and it would have been what year? 1972, maybe. I'm guessing. I'd have to go back and look at my resume and see. But anyway, I became a Jewel Tea man. Now, the Jewel Tea company is in Barrington, Illinois. I remember that's where the headquarters of it is. And I accepted a position as a Jewel Tea man, which delivers products to people's homes on a bi-weekly basis. And you go back to the people's homes and you bring them their laundry detergent and other household items, and various other specials that would be run. Anyway, I'm on the job training, and I go the first time to this house, and I have the man with me that's training me on the job. And I knock on the door, and I hear a voice from inside saying, "Come in." And I go in, and I don't see anybody. I say, "I'm Ron. I'm your new Jewel Tea man." And I hear this voice from the back room saying, "What are you, a Libra or a Scorpio?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" And she said, "Well, when were you born? What's your birthday?" And I said, "October 21st. That's right in the middle of this Mercury retrograde, isn't it? Anyway, she said, "I knew it. you're on the cusp. And then she came out, and here's this woman who claimed to be a white witch, a very large woman, and she, over the period, starting that day and over a period of time, began to tell me things about myself based on my astrological chart, which that was the first time she determined what my chart was. I gave her the information. And for those of you that want to know, it's October 21 at 10:19 p.m. Suffern, New York, Good Samaritan Hospital. If you need to narrow it down even further than that, that's my birth information. And I've had several people do charts, both the Western and Eastern astrology. The Eastern astrology is what they use and what the Hindus use. There's a name for it. I don't remember the name right off the top of my head. But in any case, I was a little bit fascinated by what she was telling me, because so many of the characteristics that she said were about me seemed to be the truth. And she didn't know me. All she knew was when I was born and where. And I thought that was interesting. And so over the years, I've had friendships with quite a few astrologers. In fact, during this particular Mercury Retrograde, I had a friend call me and ask me to advise on some local astrologers that she might check with, because she needed to have an astrology reading for one of her friends. And I recommended 4 local astrologers. I actually recommended 3, and then was reminded of a 4th one later on, so I added it to the list. But I have several friends over the years, both living locally and across the country and around the world, since I started doing these videos. I even have what's his name? He's in California, he and his wife, and I've read some of his monthly astrology reports and been very inspired by Salvador something. I'm sorry, I can't remember the full name. But in any case, I have found some of the projections quite interesting, and I actually get a few different astrology reports that are sent to me and shared with me on YouTube every month. And some of them seem quite fascinating, and others ho-hum. But in any case, this month for me, up to and including the recent exchanges with me and Swiss Indo people, have been rather interesting. Now, I do want to follow up on the Swiss Indo thing, because Peter Van Runt did issue me a public apology, and I have been reinstated once again on the platform that I can communicate with my Swiss Indo friends. And many other delegates expressed their opinions, both publicly and privately, in regard to what had happened to me. Many people, or several people anyway, apologizing for that unfortunate circumstance, including Peter, and his was public on Facebook. And I appreciate that, because here's the thing, folks. I express my honest opinions. I am not hesitant to share what I feel and what's going on with me, even sometimes when I know it's going to be taken negatively. And that's all I can do. I can only tell my truth. Now, my truth doesn't necessarily have to be your truth. Although, quite honestly, during this period, I've also been frustrated by some of my friends, again, who still buy into the denial aspect and think that denial is somehow a high spiritual attribute, that we don't want to face the negativity. Well, retrograde brings us back in and heightens, supposedly, the energies of our shadow so that we can heal it. Not so that we can run away from it and deny it and avoid it, but so that we can heal these issues. Aristo talked about that again yesterday. He even surprised me when he said saints, people that we consider saints, are generally masters of denial. They're the ones that have pushed the shadow and repressed the shadow so much that the shadow has become the beast that we have to deal with, the 666 that we have to deal with. And we have this monster called the United States of America Corporation and all of the other governments and corporations that are, as the ambassador said in his video with Dave Schmidt the night before last, which I posted, finally got a link that takes you directly to it, and I listened to it again last evening. But he plainly stated that yes, almost all of the countries on Earth are corporations. Well, the corporate structure is a structure that allows for fraud to grow out of proportion because it allows the people that own and run the corporations to operate without accountability or with very limited liability. They're not responsible. Well, giving somebody a blank check without responsibility is insane. That's our shadow. That's our psychopathic death wish, because it will kill us spiritually, if not physically. It will kill us. It will destroy us. And my vision is a world that is not based on the competition of the corporate structure of our world, but rather the cooperation of the CVAC structure put forth by Heather Tucci Giraffe of the OPPT fame and by Swiss Indo delegation. Now again, Mr. Sugi was, as far as I know, was never given the documents that we delegates worked on, and the ambassador has looked at this whole thing, and he's saying it was probably a project of the cabal to divert people's attention from some of the important things that were actually going on, and that the cabal has been doing this all along, and that they influence people that have good intentions by feeding them information that is part true and part lie. You know, it's not the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God. It's a mixed bag of information that people buy into because there's the part that they like, that they resonate with, pulls them in, and then they are susceptible to believing the lie of the cabal. And I saw that in Rusa. I see the probability of it happening in Swiss Indo. And I'm at a place in my life where I don't 100% know what is true, because I've been sucked in to the delusion of the New Age channeled messages, which I don't hardly ever listen to anymore, because they build up hope only to dash it back onto the ground. And I've seen this happen with myself again and again, where I believe that everything is okay, and then they come in and they blindside me because I'm not expecting it. And this is our world. This is the shadow. This is the thing that we're in denial of. And there was a partial eclipse of the sun yesterday. I didn't go out and watch it. I did see some videos and some information on the internet about it, but I did not go out and witness it firsthand, even though it would have been visible yesterday afternoon. I was busy with other things yesterday afternoon trying to get things done. In any case, we live at a time when we're being faced with all of the underworld events, which that's what the retrograde does. It brings up the underworld, or the shadow. And folks, I'll say what I've been saying a long time. It's time to embrace the paradoxes, embrace the shadow, and to heal it, to transform it, not to deny it and suppress it and push it away because we're calling it negative. We must embrace and transform this thing if we're ever going to create a world of cooperation and get out of this sick mode of competition with each other. We have to learn to work within ourselves, with all of the aspects of ourselves, and to work with each other. We're not going to all describe everything in the same words. And people get mad at me if I mix the dragon family with Swiss Indo because they don't want to be related to Swiss Indo. But folks, we're all related to everything. Do you not get that? That's the message that I've been trying to drive home, that Spirit has been trying to drive home for me. It's all part of me. It's not separate. It's all inclusive. There is a singular web of life. It is dark and light. It is masculine and feminine. It is positive and negative, and they are all necessary, but they must learn to do the dance and stop the dueling. The duality nature is a dueling nature, but it doesn't have to be. It can be dancing and loving and become the most beautiful thing that we could imagine if we could get out of the mindset of separation and get into the mindset of inclusion. I want to leave you with that. Think about that. What you separate from becomes your enemy. If you learn to include, it can become your lover and empower you with its gifts. If you'll only learn to see in what you call negative, if you'll only learn to see the blessing that is being offered to us with our dark side. Again, thank you for listening. Namaste.